Good day to you, I'm Ryan, and the Evercade just keeps getting better and better for arcade games and collectors, as a while back they partnered with SNK to release a load of Neo Geo compilation carts for the Evercade. So, if you're new to retro arcade games, Neo Geo games are one of the pillars of arcade history, releasing some of the best games to ever hit a coin-operated system. With their amazing graphics, sound and gameplay, Neo Geo games are remembered very fondly, although collecting them has always been a bit of a pain. While there was a home console release for the Neo Geo, cartridges alone can easily reach triple digits and are quite rare to find, as they were also expensive back in the day thanks to them basically being arcade boards in a cartridge box. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first of 4 Neo Geo arcade collections for the Evercade, the games, the Evercade's unique Neo Geo features, and my thoughts about it as a retro game collector. Let's get started, shall we? Ironclad. Ironclad is one of the few Neo Geo games to never actually see an arcade release, as this title was only originally released on the Neo Geo CD home console and as a Japan exclusive. This side-scrolling shmup is one very stylish little game however, with beautiful backgrounds, incredible sprite work and an addictive gameplay that slowly ramps up in difficulty over time rather than being difficult right from the get-go. This difficulty curve makes it a great little game for people unfamiliar with shmups or bullet hell games, and to sweeten the deal you can even take 4 hits before losing a life as opposed to the regular 1-hit death for shmup games. In Ironclad you choose from 3 different fighter planes to play as, each with different combat effects and accompanied by a little robot buddy that can be charged up and launched across the screen. You can also attach or detach the little robot, which will let it act as a shield or an extra set of guns for your plane. Interestingly, the game has branching pathways as well to encourage repeated play, which is something I love in any game genre. Bosses can be quite challenging, but each of them is a great encounter visually and in terms of gameplay. I'm a pretty big fan of a first stage tank boss that crumbles the bridge behind it while fighting. While it might not stack up to their more venerable series of Sonic Wings, Ironclad is a great little shoot 'em up and is fantastic for beginners to the genre, making it an awesome game to include on a cartridge as the only shmup available. Ironclad is a standout shmup that didn't really get the time to shine when it was first released, but thanks to this cartridge gets its well-deserved second chance. King of Fighters 2000. SNK are well renowned for their large assortment of fighting games, and King of Fighters is perhaps the most well known and loved. This one is the 7th in the King of Fighters series and last in the series to be made before the original SNK's bankruptcy. This one, while not getting an original physical release in the US, was released on both the PS2 and Dreamcast, getting extra features compared to the original version featured on this cartridge. Now, fighting games are not normally my forte, as I lack the reaction time needed to really stand a chance. This one seemed pretty fair to me on my initial playthrough though. The game has a massive assortment of characters, and instead of picking a single character, you pick up to 4 to play as at once, utilising the game's striker system to call on support as well during the battles, and swapping characters if you happen to get downed as one. On the downside, the opposing fighter also has a team of 4, though HP isn't refilled after each round on the active fighters, making it a little tough if you're only good as one character in particular. They happen to go down on the second rival fighter out of 4. The graphics and animations here are incredible, with the backgrounds being very well detailed and each team getting its own pretty pop-in theme during the match. As the matches can be quite long though, having to go through 4 whole rounds, you'd think the music would get a little dull as the fight drags on, but they keep the action high from the start of a match to the finish thanks to the arrangement of each song, song length, and lack of repetition in the tracks. For someone like me who doesn't like fighting games too much, the gameplay is fair enough to give a beginner a chance, but it can feel overwhelming with the amount of characters available and the staggering amount of moves to learn for your team of 4. Thankfully, the manual has a list of moves that you can study to help you on your King of Fighters journey. Magician Lord. This is one of Neo Geo's earlier titles, releasing in 1990, and it does feel like it's a bit dated compared to the rest of the titles on this cartridge. Magician Lord is a side-scrolling action platformer set in a world of fantasy beset by hordes of gribbly little monsters and bosses. For a 1990s arcade game, it has some pretty good graphics for both the characters and the backgrounds, though the sounds can be a little bit lacking. Playing as a wizard in snazzy blue attire, fight your way across the kingdom and save the world from the forces of evil. I'll be honest here, it does sound a lot cooler than it actually is. The action can feel quite slow in this one thanks to the low movement speed, and while you can shoot magic in 4 different directions, the lack of a diagonal shot really hurts when dealing with flying enemies and bosses. The difficulty on this one is also pretty high, though that's primarily because of your slow movement speed. If you could just walk a little bit faster, I feel like it wouldn't be as challenging, as dodging attacks and enemies would be a lot easier. While adventuring, you can pick up different coloured orbs that transform your character and their skill set, with each combination of coloured orbs resulting in a different transformation. Despite its flaws, the game has quite a lot of charm, especially in its animations, though the difficulty will take even the more experienced arcade gamer some getting used to. Metal Slug. What can I say about Metal Slug? It's one of the most widely loved Neo Geo games of all time. Heck, it's one of the most widely loved arcade games of all time. It has fantastic stylized graphics, great music, and a very addictive gameplay loop that sees you blasting your way across a bunch of stages, piloting the titular SV-001, and picking up an awesome assortment of weapons to use and marvelling in the spectacle of many pixel explosions happening all at the same time. Originally released in 1996, this side-scrolling action platformer became so popular that it spawned a whole 10-game series that are, for better or worse, mostly the same game set in different stages. If you love the gameplay of one of the Metal Slug games, you're sure to like the rest of them, and they can be enjoyed in pretty much any order. While the graphics in this one are really quite nice, and there can be a lot of action happening at once on screen, keeping your dopamine receptors in a constant state of arcade bliss, the game does suffer from some slowdowns when the action gets a bit too intense, which is quite often. Don't let that discourage you from this game though, it's a beloved classic for a reason. The gameplay is speedy and addictive, and while a bit difficult with one-hit kills, when you're not in the tank that is, keeps you invested, blasting enemies and saving prisoners, adding more and more continues until the action finally stops. This one would have been quite dangerous for me in an actual arcade setting. I can easily see myself spending all of my pocket money on this game alone. While on foot, you can shoot in the 4 main directions, shoot while moving or jumping, and throw a limited number of grenades to deal with more pesky enemy placements, fighting enemy infantry, helicopters, tanks, emplacements and more. The game constantly scrolls with your character, and while sometimes you encounter an arena of some sort where you need to take out all the enemies to progress, you can mostly go at your own speed, and you're encouraged to constantly be advancing thanks to the timer at the top of the screen. Although I'll be honest, I rarely ran out of time before I ran out of actual lives. The stages look incredible, the music is incredible, the gameplay is fun and addictive. Honestly, this game alone is worth it for the price of admission, and is perhaps the best game in the lineup. Sengoku. SNK has quite a number of beat-em-up games, but the Sengoku series is the most well-known. Released in 1991, this game sees a magic samurai castle appear in modern-day America, flooding the streets with reanimated spirits of samurai warriors and destruction. It's up to the 2 descendants of the samurai who first vanquished this evil to once again put an end to the evil samurai warlord and save the world. This one is, by all accounts, a more rudimentary beat-em-up. While you can charge up and attack, it's mostly just punches and kicks, all through one button as you fight your way across the war-torn streets of Washington, battling a nice assortment of challenging enemies that have unique movesets, and hordes of little ninja guys that die in one hit. The enemies can be quite challenging, with the samurai in particular having ridiculous fast attack patterns. Can't even see where my opening is to attack here. The game sees you travelling between 2 worlds quite frequently, the realm of the dead and the real world, which is a little bit more boring, with there also being some nice background designs across the stages and cool effects like enemies running in from the back, ghostly skulls flying across the screen and more. You can also pick up orbs that grant you different weapons, temporarily morph you into different characters, and each of them have a different strength and attack. There are a few different characters that you can morph into: a dog, a samurai dude, and some kind of ninja who does some ridiculous backflipping skills, and each of them has their own unique attacks that slightly differ from your original character's attacks. I did find, however, that some of the characters are a little bit more useless. The dog, for instance, I couldn't get any damage on the enemies with for some reason. I don't know what was going on there. This is the only beat-em-up on a roster, so despite the difficulty, this one is a nice palate cleanser between the other offerings on the cartridge. Shocktroopers. Shocktroopers is like a fun little mix of Ironclad and Metal Slug. Part top-down shmup with choosable stages, part self-scrolling action game with a ridiculous amount of explosions and a stylized art style. Choose one of 8 characters and blast your way across the stages to rescue a kidnapped scientist and his granddaughter. The game has 2 different modes, Lone Wolf and Team Battle. Team Battle lets you choose 3 characters to play as and swap between. Lonely Wolf gives you a higher total life pool but does restrict you for 1 character. Each character has their own strengths, weaknesses and special weapon, with my favourite being the boomerang guy who's built like a tank and walks at the speed of a tortoise. If you were to choose Team Battle though, you would get access to a higher variety of special weapons which could be more useful in certain situations. This one is thankfully an 8-way game, letting you both shoot and move in every direction, and you do really need to be able to. The enemies appear everywhere and bullets can fill the screen quite rapidly, needing precise movement to dodge. You can also roll in the direction that you're moving to help you dodge enemy projectiles. There's quite an assortment of weapons, but honestly the default machine gun for each character is effective enough most of the time, and the special weapons do have a limited amount of ammo. By the way, the aforementioned dude who's built like a tank actually shoots 2 bullets at once with his machine gun rather than 1. How that works, I've got no idea, but a double barrel machine gun sounds like the best video game invention ever made. As usual with Neo Geo games, the graphics are incredible, with the stages being wonderfully designed to be both eye-catching and destructible, with the ability to choose stages and character really helping to add to the replay value of the game. This one is perhaps the second best title on the list, just behind Metal Slug. So, there's all the games on Neo Geo Arcade 1. This is a great time to mention though that you don't just get access to the games of this cartridge, you also get access to dip switches, which are a unique set of options that as of May 2026 only work with Neo Geo Arcade cartridges, letting you customize the difficulty of each of the games to your preferred level, as well as toggle between the arcade and the home console versions of each game. By default, the games are around the middle of the difficulty scale, and there's plenty of room to both reduce and increase the difficulty to suit your needs. As I mentioned before, this is the first of 4 Neo Geo Arcade compilations for the Evercade, with 1 through 3 being available now and the 4th coming in June 2026. I think this is a fantastic collection of arcade games and an awesome way of collecting Neo Geo stuff physically. The original cartridges can easily approach triple digits, and even though there's a new cartridge-based Neo Geo system coming out called the Neo Geo AES Plus, that console and its cartridges are still pretty pricey, whereas just for £20 you can get 6 iconic Neo Geo games in one snazzy little box and cartridge. I also need to mention that the inlay cover is reversible, so you can have it match the rest of your Evercade arcade collection or have them stand out with a black and gold Neo Geo style. This is a great addition to the Evercade lineup and justifies having some kind of Evercade or Super Pocket system alone, even if you're not interested in the rest of the cartridges currently available. These Neo Geo cartridges are quite popular though, so you'll have to keep an eye out for them on Amazon as they do pop in and out of stock every so often. What's your favourite Neo Geo game out of these 6? Let me know in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and take it easy.